Okay, well, welcome to this masterclass. But this masterclass is not going to be your regular masterclass. It's going to be more like a conversation. It's going to be a conversation about the area of research that several of us that you will meet today have spent quite a bit of time on over the last few years. So it's about uncertainty, as you know. Now, we're all feeling a lot of uncertainty today. The city of Madrid actually did a bit of a survey the other day, and they found that the two words that were resonating the most with people everywhere in the city was sadness and uncertainty. Now, let's think about uncertainty. Now, we've been feeling uncertainty for a long time. You know, there's been many things in the world that have happened over the last few years that have brought uncertainty into our lives. Everything from 9/11 to Brexit to the crash of 2009. But somehow this is different because it's affecting all of us. We're feeling different. Well, we wanted to find out how our students were feeling here at IE University. So this summer, right after the pandemic, the lockdown, we decided to survey a group of our MBAs. And this is what we found. We found that 97% of them felt more comfortable with uncertainty in their professional life and their work life as a result of COVID-19 than before. So in a way, they were forced out of their comfort zone. Now, that's not surprising because many of you probably saw that cartoon that said that what was the biggest driver of digital transformation this year? COVID-19. So sure enough, our MBAs were being forced out of their comfort zone, feeling more comfortable with uncertainty in their professional lives. But the other interesting thing was 72% of them felt more uncomfortable with uncertainty in their personal life. They sought more certainty in their personal life than they had back in January. So this is interesting. Now, have you ever thought about the difference between the way you handle uncertainty in your personal life to the way you handle it in your professional life? Well, let me tell you, we have. And we've been thinking about this for quite a long time, several years actually. And that's what we're going to be talking to you about today. You see, we have come up with what we consider to be a scale for measuring your comfort with uncertainty. We think we can actually measure the level of comfort with uncertainty of a person in both their professional and personal life. So let's take a look at the PW scale. Okay? This scale, as you can see, has two axes. Well, two lines essentially. One, the personal life, and one, the work life. A P1 is a person that struggles with uncertainty in their personal life. A P4 is a person that embraces uncertainty in their personal life. A W1 is a person that struggles with uncertainty in their professional life. And a W4 is a person that embraces uncertainty in their professional life. So what kind of a person embraces uncertainty in their professional life? An entrepreneur. What does an entrepreneur see in uncertainty? Opportunity. So we began this research in 2011. At that time, I did my PhD, and the topic of my PhD was the socialization of the quantitatively minded professional in society. Little did I know that this study of what was essentially how nerds struggled in society would turn into looking at people in a different way in terms of how they looked at their relationship with uncertainty at a personal and a professional level. Later on in 2013, Professor Ikhlaq Sidhu of UC Berkeley joined me, and we established the PW scale, which is what you see in front of you now. After that, and many of you have been witness to this as I've gone around the world doing master classes about this, we actually managed to interview or survey with a self-diagnostic assessment over 20,000 people. This research, which started in 2011, then went on, as I said, after 2013, researching people. Around 2014, Dr. Mario Alonso Puig joined us, taking a look at everything that we were doing from a humanistic, neuroscientific perspective. And he's going to talk about that because it is true that our relationship with uncertainty affects us, affects our bodies as well as our minds. We then went on with the research, and a couple of years ago, Lillian joined us, who's working with us in trying to automate this process of assessment, of determining your P and your W. And then a year ago, Professor Mike Lepic from Stanford University joined us, who's taken a keen interest in this and is now helping us to drive this whole effort to the next level. So you might say, so what did you find out after 20,000 data points? Well, let me tell you what we found out, because it's pretty interesting. We found out a couple of things. We found out that 80% of the people who were W3s, W4s, these are people that embrace uncertainty in their professional life. Innovative thinkers, entrepreneurial mindset, growth mindset people, people who embrace uncertainty. 80% of these people were P1, P2s. Yeah, nerdy in their personal lives. So, all right, that was interesting. We also saw some other things. We also saw that about 90% of the people that were P3s and P4s, they had W1 and W2 jobs, which is also fairly interesting. Now, probably one of the most important things that we saw was that you could teach people to grow on the W scale. Now, I don't know if you can teach people to grow on the P scale, but that's not our area of expertise here. We've been looking at this very carefully, and we've seen that it is not hard to teach people to grow on the W scale. And essentially, what's happening there? You're out of your comfort zone. And a lot of you, will be witness to this, that the reality is that if you're in an environment that takes you out of your comfort zone repeatedly, like it could be to be in a university that has, hundreds of nationalities, where you're out of your comfort zone with new cultures, all these things force you out of your comfort zone repeatedly. And your comfort zone is like a muscle. It grows. So the way to grow your W is to be forced out of your comfort zone professionally. Same thing would happen on your P scale if that's what you wanted. Now, the other thing that we found is that most of society today does not celebrate a low P in your life. They don't celebrate low Ps. Nobody's out there celebrating low Ps. On the contrary, what they're telling you is that if you want to have a Silicon Valley mentality, you probably need a Hollywood person to go with it. Now, that's really sad. Sad because it's so ironic that in a way, if you are a low P, you actually have higher potential of being a high W. So this is a situation which the whole world is facing. Our society has conditioned the way we look at our careers. They've conditioned the way we look at our opportunities. They've told us that if you're shy, if you're introverted, you're less likely to be a salesperson or a professional that is entrepreneurial, outgoing, and the like. When the reality is that you have a better chance of being that. So you might ask, does this make sense? Sure, it makes sense. Because at the end of the day, what are we looking for in our lives? We're looking for a balance. And that's why if you're a high W, you need a low P. And if you're a high P, you need a low W for the most part. Now there are exceptions. You might say Elon Musk might be an exception. Maybe he's a P4, W4. I look at my own life. When I was in college, I was a P1, W1. I studied engineering, computer engineering. I hated uncertainty in my work. If I look at my personal life, I was a P1. I like telling the story of my first girlfriend, Bonnie, who left me because she thought I was too boring, too predictable. Because when I told her I would call her at 8 o'clock every day, I actually called her at 8 o'clock every day. And she didn't have the uncertainty of whether I was going to call or not. So what happened to me? I decided at an early age, after graduating, that I was going to grow my W. I realized that I had to unnerd myself. And I ended up in New York City, and I went through a training program that completely changed the way I looked at my professional life. In 6 months, I became a P1 W4. I embraced uncertainty, but I was still a P1. I was still calling my girlfriends at 8 o'clock. So this is very important, this research, because the world today is full of P1s. It's full of people who are, embracing their traditions, embracing the things that give them stability, and whether that's society, the establishment, religion, whatever it is. And these people are not celebrated. And the reality is that we should not judge people based on their P. The reality is that most of the people in the world are not happy. So if you're happy with the P that you have, embrace it. Nobody needs to be a Hollywood person in order to have a Silicon Valley mentality. Actually, on the contrary, as I've been telling you, you have a better chance because you're grounded, because most of us demand a balance in our lives. So with that, I think maybe we're going to start this conversation. And we're going to start talking to one of our students here at IE. All right, let's begin. So, Rebecca, why don't we start with you? How are you, Rebecca? Can you hear me?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Good, Rebecca. So I see, Rebecca, that you're a P3W3. Talk to me about that.
Well, actually, I was not always a P3. As a kid, I was super shy, super quiet. I liked doing my own thing. I spent an uncountable number of hours at the Ballet Conservatoire, and when I was not there, I was studying. I didn't have too many friends, but that didn't bother me at all. I was quite happy with my life. Until a few years later, I was a teenager and I had eating disorders. And that was a horrible experience. I lost my hearing for a while, so I couldn't really talk to my classmates or to my teachers. I couldn't pay attention in class. And the only people to whom I would kind of mutter some words were my parents. But fortunately, that I overcame that experience, and then I went to university. It was a bit of a challenge because I had spent so many years without communicating that I didn't really know how to introduce myself or introduce another person or bring up a topic or start a conversation. However, I did desperately want to make friends and socialize because of that traumatic experience. So slowly, I started becoming more of an extrovert than an introvert. And so that was that transition into P3. My W3 also changed. I was always a humanist. My parents were humanists. I loved humanities, and I studied a baccalaureate in humanities. And then I completed my undergraduate studies in politics and history. So again, very humanities focused. But it was my final year, my professional horizons started broadening. And shortly, I found myself in the world of impact investment. And I loved it. I loved impact measurement. But I realized that in order to be actually useful and scale up the sector, I had to develop my quantitative skills and learn a bit more about technology. So now I am studying a master in big data and business analytics at IE. And my days are full of statistics and coding and machine learning and artificial intelligence. So that has also changed. And I think many people, when they see my score, they ask me, but Rebecca, how is it possible? Like, what is your anchor? Exactly. And I guess it all comes down to that traumatic experience. Like everyone who has suffered eating disorders, it is a battle that nobody can fight for you. So it's really all on you. And I kind of became my own engine. I developed a huge amount of independence that has accompanied me throughout. And also an enormous amount of gratitude. I think it was Einstein who said that there are two kinds of people, those who see miracles everywhere in life and those who don't see any miracles at all. And I think I do like to see miracles everywhere in life. So kind of to summarize what my life is as a P3W3, there is a sentence in the English language that I love is you're welcome. So when someone says thank you and you reply with you're welcome, to me, you're welcome always meant like welcome to the club of those who are grateful. And that is how I like living my life as a P3W3 and all the transitions that have happened throughout.
Thank you, Rebecca. That's very nice and inspirational. So I think this is a great time to get us to say a few words to Mario Alonso Puig, who was a well-known doctor before he became a speaker, author of more than 8 books. Mario, you're always saying that we need a bit of uncertainty in order to grow. Talk to us about this. And I see, Mario, that you are a P1W3. Mute? The mute, Mario, the mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay. Thank you, Paris. It's an honor to be with all of you today. And you know, when our minds face uncertainty because we lose connection to what is familiar to us, which is the mental map that we have been holding to, we tend to resist to a world that is for us completely unknown. This has very negative connotations in the way in which our brain works, because the fear center called the amygdala, which is located in the temporal lobe of the brain, I have a brain here, so I can show it to you, in the temporal lobe of the brain, this part of the brain. So when the amygdala goes off, this causes a series of changes in how we perceive reality and in how we can interact with that very same reality. When this happens, we only see threats, dangers, and risks, and our executive brain, which is in the frontal part of the brain, starts to lose some of its most important capacities. And this is expressed as loss of our entrepreneurial spirit, an impairment in our capacity to learn and be creative, tiredness, irritability, anxiety, sadness, depression, insomnia, and poor health. In fact, we can get sick very, very fast. This is why we need, in the middle of uncertainty, to focus on searching for opportunities, on exploring this unknown world with an open heart and an open mind. If we will do that, the amygdala, the fear center in our brain, will not take over and cause what is called amygdala hijack. On the other hand, in the middle of uncertainty, we need to hold to something that gives us a sense of familiarity and safety. This usually can be found in our personal lives. This is why, at least in my opinion, and according to our research, the P scale and the W scale are so relevant, because both of them, not competing against each other, but working together, can offer us a guideline to embrace uncertainty and at the same time teach us how we can hold to something that gives us that sense of safety and familiarity when we need the most, and which is when we are moving from the known into the unknown.
Okay, Mario, thank you so much for joining us today. So tell us, Mario, about your P1. I mean, how do you know you're a P1?
Because I hold to some values and some principles which have been absolutely pivotal in my life when I have gone through rough periods rough moments in my life. Holding to those values, holding to those principles have given me the strength, the serenity, the confidence, the passion that I needed to overcome those challenges. So it's more than a superficial way of being. It's a much deeper way of being. It's finding within myself the groundedness that I need in order to face those challenges, feeling that although the challenge is complex, within me and within ourselves, we have the resourcefulness that we really need in order to be victorious, to succeed in the middle of these challenges.
I can relate very much to that, Mario. I was a P1 until about a year ago, but now I've actually moved a little bit to the right, you know, for better or for worse, but I'm still on the left side of the P. Okay, thank you, Mario. So yeah, we've heard a little bit from Rebecca how she gets strength from within. She doesn't need an anchor. It's her belief in herself, a situation that was forced upon her to, you know, she's her own engine, that independence. And there are a lot of people like that, although most of us need an anchor. So with that, I think it's a good time to talk to another one of our students that is a little bit different. She's similar to Mario in a way. She's a P1 W3. Carla, how are you today? Mute.
Hi, Paris. I'm great. How are you?
Good. Carla,
can you hear me?
Yes. Talk to us about this journey that you mentioned to me the other day that you've been living throughout this pandemic, and you know, it really has brought to bear a reflection of yourself on what you are on the P and the W scale.
Sure. So since joining IE, I developed a strong crush in someone. And when I finally gathered up the courage to tell them after months of our friendship, finally in January, the person was very excited. They liked me back and we were about to enter a relationship, and then COVID happened. So we were separated until September. And throughout all those months of excitement and anticipation, I actually started to realize two things. And first was that I didn't actually need this relationship, but more importantly, I realized I really didn't want all the instability and change it would bring to my life, especially in these times. So instead, I actually realized I would much rather focus on my professional life, which made me realize how I am indeed a W3. And I decided to expand beyond just my bachelor and the consultancy projects that I had taken on, and really enter the world of entrepreneurship and started doing some venture projects, and really opened up my creativity and decided to focus on that aspect of my life.
Now, that's very interesting, Carla. I mean, but I'm sure that more than one person in the audience is thinking, I mean, at some point, you're going to be ready to go back into a relationship, right?
Absolutely. But right now, I really do feel that in times of uncertainty, I personally need to find stability in my life. And I think that comes from within. You have to find it in yourself. You cannot depend on others for it. And instead, it's a great time to exploit opportunities whilst you're working on that inner peace.
Nice, nice. So I can imagine that some people might even be off the scale, like P0s?
For sure.
Okay. All right. Let's keep going. All right. So the next conversation that we're going to have, I mean, if there was somewhere in the world today where you knew that it was ground zero of uncertainty, where would that be? Just think about it. Yeah, you're right. Beirut. Sure enough, Beirut is probably ground zero when it comes to uncertainty. And where else would be a more logical place for us to be having our development center right now in terms of our assessment with our project manager for this whole research based there than in Beirut. And we're very happy to have with us Lillian, who is based in Beirut and is part of our team. And she's going to talk to us a little bit about what she experiences in Beirut all the time. Now, we've all seen the videos, we've all seen the explosions, whatever, but how does P&W relate to all this? Lillian, welcome.
Hi, Paris. Thank you so much.
So I see, Lillian, that you are a P2W3. Are you sure you're a P2?
Personally, I think I'm P2, but you think that I'm P1. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe we should ask Mike about that too. Maybe he's got something to say about that. No, he doesn't want to say anything. We'll get to Mike later. All right, Lillian, tell us about Beirut.
Thanks, Paris, again. I'm happy to be here today. And actually, when we talk about uncertainty, everyone might relate to uncertainty or define it in their own way. But actually, do you truly know what it looks like? Like, nobody honestly experienced it the way that we did in Beirut, or even you have any idea the level of uncertainty we are living here. I think when you listen to people talking about uncertainty in whether in personal and professional life, usually they relate to stories related to COVID before and after, and how their life changed on their personal and professional level. But unfortunately, it's not the case in Beirut. Today here, what we have is more than COVID. COVID to us become the least priority with all what's happening here since 2019, October 2019 until date. And honestly, when I want to talk and to tell you more about uncertain times that we've been passing through, I don't know where to start from, whether from revolution into inflation, pandemic, the currency deflation, explosion, homeless people, the insecurity, the unsafety that we cannot know if we went out from our apartment, are we coming back or no? The unemployment rate that is going crazy. Like, for example, you hear that every day this company either closed or what's happening around, people are being laid off. What's more to talk about? It's like today you go simply to a pharmacy or to the hospital, you cannot find the medicine, you cannot find a place to go there, and even if you want to go to the supermarket, it's a lot of foods and stuff that you cannot find anymore because either they are important or if they are there, you cannot afford to pay them. This is briefly. I'm going to tell you about my story, honestly, and how I experienced uncertainty throughout this year. As you started, like, I'm P2W3, although you said that I might be P1. But I do believe with time, I'm going down to be P1. My apartment was completely damaged at the same day that I moved to it. My car is damaged, and I don't know if it is destiny or luck that I was late 30 minutes to my regular afternoon run in the same area where completely injured by the explosion. Since October 2019 till date, the whole personal life and professional life completely changed. On professional level, the way we used to work, the HR job that I used to have is completely different. On personal level, my life, my people I was with, around friends, anything, either they left or they changed their life. So I can tell you that, I can definitely say that all the uncertain times that I'm living now, what I can tell you, the only something certain or that can give me stability is Friday night going up to the mountains. And this is on personal level, being with my family, have the serenity. While on professional, it's the PW work, and where I found it's completely the shift away, the move, which gave me more power, more motivation to see that there's still hope and there's still some escape to work and to motivate and to be doing what you have passion in. So this is briefly a story of me personally, who have experienced uncertainty the most in my life. I've never been into this. Complete life changed. On professional, the way we used to go to work, it's not the same anymore, and on personal as well. But I'm happy here today to tell you as well, Paris, that I have another story, not only for me, but of a guide that I'd love to share with you today. There's a person that I used to see while I was running, and he used to sit on the stairs in an area in Beirut where he have aside a bunch of books. So one day I was running and I had to stop by him and I asked him what these books are about. And he told me that those are his books that he wrote and he's selling for any price that you can afford to pay. And then I tell him, what do? You are a writer, you're still a student. So he told me that he couldn't afford to pay his tuition fees. So he had to leave his university and to do another job. And unfortunately, since, as I mentioned, that there is not a lot of job opportunities here, what he had to do is he had to work in a pub. So he started working in a pub in order to gain some money. But since he cannot afford to pay his tuition fees, he wanted to do another thing, which was his job, and it was his main passion to write and to publish his book. Today, this guy, Bashar, was there sitting, trying to sell his books to gain more money so that he can save them and then he can go back to the university. 2 weeks later, the explosion happened. And then when I saw the pictures and the videos where Bashar used to sit and to work, I saw that it was completely damaged. I tried to be in contact with him and to find more about if he's still safe. I went down trying to ask about him using social media, trying to find a way. And luckily, I reached out to him and I asked him if he's okay. Bashar told me that he lost his apartment, he lost his job, he lost even the books and everything he had there. But he gained motivation, power, and hope. That unfortunately, with everything lost around, he went down and he volunteered in cleaning and in helping people. So I can easily say when I met Bashar the first time, he's like P1, is very shy. He wasn't really able to talk or to discuss, but then having the situation, makes Bashar like P2, going down, volunteering, trying to work. And I can see that his W grows, definitely. So it's hard to say that, but at one point, and given everything that we've been passing through and all people around and the stories that I can hear daily, I can easily say that sometimes with extreme situations, uncertainty brings the best out of us, whether in personal or non-professional life. And this is what we are experiencing. And I don't think like any other place in the world have been passing or passed through what we've been living here. But we still have hope. And we do believe that we will rise again, and we are rising again. And you can see in a lot of people in their faces, and I'm one of them, that my W during this year increased. Maybe my P went down, but my W totally increased. And again, I say it has nothing to do if I'm P1 or P2, but I can say that I'm W3, or maybe my aim to be W4. And same things goes to this guy that I met. So yes, you can always find hope out of uncertainty and opportunity out of uncertainty. And it can get the best out of you as long as you have it in the mindset.
Okay, thank you, Lillian. Beautiful, beautifully told. All right, now, none of this research would have been possible without the first partner that I had, and he's joined us now, Ikhlaq Sidhu, Professor Ikhlaq Sidhu from UC Berkeley. Ikhlaq, talk to me a little bit about how we lived this. Back in 2013, we wrote a paper together that looked at a lot of these data points. What did we see from all that, Ikhlaq? You're mute? The mute. Microphone? No. Press the mic. In the dashboard below, press the mic. There.
How about now?
Yeah, perfect.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, hi, welcome everyone. And the specific question is, what did we find in our paper, I think? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So our experience together, Paris, you were really the one who came to me with this topic of uncertainty, the P's and the W's. And this goes quite some time back. I think, I don't know, 2012 originally we started talking about this. It could be earlier than that. We wrote a paper actually in 2015, and the goal of the paper was basically to understand, like on this like personal level and professional level, how people operate in uncertainty. And what that means is, can you operate without anxiety even when there is something to be anxious about? So it's like, can you operate in this anxiety-free state given these environmental conditions? And we asked basically, this is a preliminary study, and we asked about 1,000 people about their own P and W, what it was like in the past, what they aspired for it to be in future. We looked at their backgrounds in terms of what kind of jobs they had, and their backgrounds in terms of what kind of education they had. And I think maybe there's like 3 interesting things. There could be more. I'm kind of remembering back to the results of the paper. One was that that your P number and your W number was not always the same. So in fact, 56% of the time, in other words, more of the time than less, the number wasn't the same. Although there's a lot of people who are on the diagonal of equal numbers, the density, the probability mass, or however you want to think about it, was actually greater, that you were like P2, W3, P1, W4, that it was not all P1, W1, P2, W2. And this speaks a little bit to that people are willing to take more stress in one type of their life and less in another one. And that I think, this is just my own personal view. I think that there's a little bit of a trade-off. Sometimes you're willing to, it's kind of like you can only take so much stress total. Some people can take more and some people can take less. But if you can only take so much total, then if you can, then if you're willing to take a lot in one dimension, then you're kind of conserving how much stress you can take in another dimension. So that seemed to be, there's no like rule to this exactly. I'm just telling you what the data was saying. The other thing that was interesting was that when people were in school, that if you were, whether you were in liberal arts, whether you were in engineering, whatever kind of field you were in, it didn't really make a difference statistically whether you were higher or lower in both P and W scales. Like they were basically right on top of each other. But if you looked at it by career choice, there was a big difference. People who were entrepreneurs were considerably farther out, maybe like like a full standard deviation or more out. And people who were managers were, you know, as I was saying, less, and people who were engineers were even less in both P and W. So like I said, it didn't matter that you went into engineering. You could have a high P and W score, but what you ended up doing, if you stayed a kind of normal engineer, whatever that means, then most likely your scores were lower in this category. And if you ended up being more innovative, more entrepreneurial, your score tended to be higher. So that basically had some implication on what we thought how we should be teaching these things. In other words, to make a person entrepreneurial wasn't necessarily about teaching them entrepreneurship, or wasn't necessarily about like teaching them what was in the book, but it was more about getting them to have the behavior associated with a wider comfort zone. I think that's probably it's probably a reasonable summary of what was in that paper.
Okay, thanks, Iklak. We have a minute left. I know that one of the there's an echo here. There's an echo if you can. We have about a minute left. I know that one of the new initiatives that we're collaborating with is called Global Venture Catalyst, and it mixes engineering undergraduates with MBAs in order to, almost in a hackathon type of way, to get them to develop themselves. Tell me why you're doing this and the role of P and W in terms of your matching algorithm.
Yeah, okay. So I hear the echo now. I wasn't hearing it before. Okay, I'll try to talk over my own echo here. So the why is that, you know, there's a lot of change that's happened, and you know, with the pandemic, with the change in the economy, even with geopolitical situations, and because of this change, you know, I'm primarily worried about students, or thinking about students, and some of the formal ways that they can network with people, that they can interact with companies, that they can take these like career steps forward, including starting ventures and finding team members and things like that, has become more limited. The formal methods, you know, of just like going to a pizza party, recruiting event, they're not there like they were before. And so that, plus the fact that we can do things, you know, very globally, like we're doing right now, the idea of this was that we could fix that problem by having an event where we really connect people around the world, MBA students, you know, engineering students, in undergraduate engineering students, experienced mentors, people in Silicon Valley, and so forth. Just the act of putting them together with some purpose, and that includes corporate members too. And the role of P and W, what we're doing is we're working on an AI-based algorithm that puts teams together. So in some ways, like you've got Match.com that, you know, like you could tell whether someone would be a good, you know, date or partner for you, or, you know, something along those lines. What would be a good match for 4 or 5 people to be a team together? And, you know, for that to happen, some people have to be similar in some ways, and they have to be different in some ways. And one of the ways that they have to be different, frankly, is in their P and particularly in their W scores, because you can't have a team where everyone is equally aggressive, because then there won't be anyone on that team to be a little bit careful and say, hold on, we're kind of driving over a cliff, you know, to put the brakes on when you're going in the wrong direction. So we're basically taking all of the input that we would take in an application, including psychological or behavioral questions, and using that to auto-form teams. So that's part of the magic of what we're doing with this event that we're pulling together.
All right, Iklak, thank you so much for that. All right, next we're going to hear from Mike Lepic, our partner from Stanford. Mike, the floor is yours. Is that P1 or P2, Mike? You're mute, Mike, you're mute.
Not, okay, there we go. Takes a little bit to come on. Yeah, we'll have to let you decide if I'm a P1 or a P2. You know, so here at Stanford, I teach a lot of our executive education out of the School of Engineering, focused on entrepreneurship, venture capital investing, and so we're teaching folks how to do some of the most risky things you can do in business, and so uncertainty is something that we think about a lot, and how do we get folks comfortable with various levels of uncertainty, and are there ways you can take advantage of that natural comfort or discomfort with your uncertainty? Are there ways to increase that capacity and use it as a professional or personal management tool to get ahead? And absolutely yes, and that's what we continue to find. And I think the word that we can use here, while many folks may think that the word uncertainty is a bit negative in connotation, the flip side of uncertainty is resilience. And trying to think about how do we work as individuals to make ourselves more resilient to uncertainty and change, to become comfortable with it. And to be comfortable in our own shoes. And so in order to try to look at this more deeply, we formed the Collaboratory for Individual Resilience and Uncertainty Management. And so we pronounce it CIRUM. And so it's a joint effort between my center, the Stanford Center for Sustainable Development and Global Competitiveness, in which we're looking a lot at how we engage with entities all over the world on how to sustainably develop, but also do it in a globally competitive way. And that focuses on a lot of machine learning, Industry 4.0 applications of technology in new settings, but also on a great deal of entrepreneurship. So that Collaboratory brings together my center, the IE Entrepreneurship and Innovation Center, and Iklak Center at the University of California, Berkeley, Studarcha's Center for Entrepreneurship and Technology. And so this is exactly what we're trying to look at. Right? How comfortable are people with uncertainty and their ability to manage it and become more resilient? And we think that the lessons that we've learned over decades in Silicon Valley, everyone has uncertainty. Here we ride the roller coaster like you wouldn't believe, and we have to embrace it. And so we found that the most successful Silicon Valley entrepreneurs, venture capitalists, and founders possess both a high risk-taking mindset and a robust entrepreneurial skill set. And it's that first ingredient that we're so interested in. How do we help people form the toolkit to engage in world-class entrepreneurial and innovation mindsets, and along the way become increasingly resilient by actively managing and thinking about their comfort with uncertainty? All right, so that's what we're doing here, and I'll let you ask me some questions.
Thank you, Mike. All right, we have very little time, but I want Priyanka and Madison just to give us like a 1 minute, please, 1 minute sort of summary of what you would like to share today. Priyanka?
Hi, parents.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I would like to share my own story very briefly and, maybe draw some conclusions about it on P1, W1 and how it affects. So when I was growing up, PW concept was not there, unfortunately. However, I can guess that I was a P1, W1. I had been an academically oriented student growing up, and my first job was, as a tech professional. So the job and, how I personally was, I believe, I can guess that I was at the lower end of both the factors. Now, when I wanted to do my MBA and I wanted to switch my career from being a techie into something else, I wanted to choose sales. However, people who were around me, who knew me personally, they thought that, I should stick to something which allows me to be an individual contributor, given that they perceive me as introvert. And to be honest, I take time to open up personally to people. And they, my heart, for some reason, which I still don't know, was always set on doing a sales role. I was advised against it, but I was keen on it, and I still went ahead and moved into sales. Now, fast forward, I spent 7 years in sales, and honest to my heart, I don't think any other career option would have given me that much of enjoyment and happiness. So the essence is that, when I spoke to Paris, I understood that, yes, there is a clear demarcation between what personal attributes you carry and what work attributes you carry, and those can be two different concepts. And had I known this earlier, and it's lucky that people know it now when we are, speaking about this forum, is that it helps people to choose a profession which, by the common guess, may not be the best suitable for them, which was in my case. So this was my personal story. And now, right now, I have taken a break. I have worked overall for about 30 years. I have taken a break in this year, which already has so much of uncertainty, to do something which is tangentially different from what I have been doing in my career. So I am a student of Masters in Customer Experience and Innovation. And I have spent now about 1.5 months, too early to say, but whatever I have spent, I have completely enjoyed. So it is still a direction in which my W is increasing, which has increased when I moved into sales. But when I took the test recently, I was around P2, W3. So I have made a big jump in my W attributes.
Okay, thank you, Priyanka. All right, Madison. Madison, you got a couple of minutes, please.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. So I might touch on the importance of resilience, and I feel like Rebecca and Priyanka and Lillian are great examples of it. And I meanwhile, was a horrid example of it. I was not resilient whatsoever. I would have drowned in a glass of water. I could not handle not being in control of things. And that became a problem when I was younger, when I was applying to university, because the application process is hell and you can't be in control of really anything there. And I realized, if I can't handle the stress of the uncertainty of applying, how am I going to handle the stress of attending or looking for work later? The stress will kill me. I need to work on this. So I convinced my friends to let me go on a high school study abroad. And from the get-go, that experience was all about uncertainty. I wanted to go to France. They sent me to Spain. I spoke French. I spoke no Spanish. And there I was, arriving in Spain, meeting my host family, this group of strangers I was going to live with, that I couldn't communicate with, and attending a low Spanish high school. And I remember, actually, there's a picture behind me, but I don't know if you can see, but you can tell the look on my face is, what the heck did I just sign up for? The entire year was just experience after experience of uncertainty and unknown, and it was absolutely terrifying until suddenly it wasn't. And it just came, and when everything is uncertain, it becomes your norm. And being thrown into it, having learned to cope, made me realize that I could. And I found that so empowering and so exciting that I didn't want that sensation to end. And it's something I tried to recreate ever since. So for me, what I would take from PW scale is, well, I'm a very organized, structured P. I'm very low on the P scale, and I always will be, and I always like that about myself. I can see the importance of pushing your W, and that it's something that you can do, and that it's, for me in my professional life, it's really paid off to do that.
Okay, thank you, Madison. All right, well, unfortunately, this forum, this master class that, as you saw, was a conversation, has come to an end. The reality is that, yes, as I started saying at the beginning, there is a lot of sadness out there. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's no doubt that there are a lot of people dying, and this is the reality, and we need to stay safe. We need to stay safe, but we need to grow our W's. Things will get better, and when they do, we will be better prepared. So, I would like to show you finally our slide here that shows you from the 20,000 data points that we collected over the last almost 10 years. You can see some correlations based on nationality, countries. It's not surprising that Lebanon, as we heard earlier, has a lot of resilience. P3, let me see there, P3W4s. So this is not the end of this masterclass. This is only the beginning for us. Over the next few months, we will be rolling out an assessment that we hope to take to the rest of the world so that we can better prepare all of you and ourselves for the future that's coming. With that, I would like to say, if you do decide to go trick-or-treating this weekend, be safe.